Okay, you should see that I'm recording the call. Okay, take my sticky notes out. Okay. Okay, the call is being recorded. Everything looks good. Okay, perfect. So, hi, can you? Everybody can hear me, correct? Excellent, excellent. So, right now, welcome guys to the Tech Partners webinar. This is the February one. I am Luis, one of the official Tech Partners, and Jason is over there, the co-host, joining in. And I see is joining in. Perfect. And I say, hey, Oleg, welcome to the Tech Partner webinar.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
No, of course, no, thank you. I'm just starting out, just to let you know this is recorded. So, okay, so right now we started the webinar. So let me start over. Welcome to the Tech Partners webinar. I'm Luis from Portfolio Webs, and one of the Tech Partners, and Jason is the co-host. We're very glad to have you guys here. So the purpose of this webinar, I'm going to be showing you how to integrate the Tape API, the developer's API, with a very, very powerful website builder that is called Webstudio. And Webstudio allows you to add literally anything that you create on Tape, you can add it to your website. And joining us in this call, and I'm excited to introduce Oleg, which is the founder of Webstudio. And Oleg is a web engineer. He's an open source author, and he's very passionate about the open web, developing performance, accessibility, and visual development. So thank you, Oleg, so much for joining us on the Tech Partner webinar. And I really appreciate your time that you're taking to join us here in this webinar.
Thanks for having me. I am excited to see what it can do because I actually have no idea how it works.
Yeah, you'll see. Tape is we got the Tape team. We got Stefan and team. They're part of the Tape team. They're the developers of the app. They're here with us. So they're the founders. They're also here. So you'll see that Tape is it's so powerful, the platform. And the way it integrates with Webstudio is fantastic. So that's what I'm going to be showing today. So before beginning, let me show the agenda that we will have today. So our agenda is, I gave the introduction. So now we're going to be going to the Tape team. They give us their update on what's going on with the platform, anything any updates, things that they're going to be launching. Then we're going to pass on to Mr. Oleg to talk a little bit about what Webstudio is. Some of the questions is why it's an open source builder, and a basic difference between WordPress and Webstudio. And then I'm going to do a demonstration on how to integrate the developer's API with Webstudio. And then we finish with a Q&A session. So we should be out in about an hour. So perfect. So let's continue on with a little bit about what Webstudio is. So now, Mr. Oleg, can you tell us a little bit of why did you decide to do it as an open source?
Well, frankly, I don't like to waste my time building something closed source. That's the whole truth. I just don't feel like building something that, for numerous reasons, would be dead in a few years because company runs out of money, or something happens on the market, or I get hit by the bus, whatever that is. I mean, I'm trying to build something that is supposed to be a better WordPress. And if I do something like this, how can it be not open source, right?
And I think you're very close to making a WordPress, because I transfer all my clients' website and my website from WordPress to Webstudio, because one of the things that Webstudio has, the way that you can integrate it with the Tape API is so good. It's so easy that you can basically have Tape as your backend and Webstudio as your front end. And the thing that you develop, Oleg, is so fantastic. And I'm going to be showing how it works here.
The story has actually started with a friend who runs an agency on WordPress, showing me how frustrating it is to use WordPress blocks builder UI, and me telling him, okay, I can actually build you the Webflow-like UI, and you can connect it to WordPress as a CMS, as a headless CMS. And this is how it actually started. I mean, I really like Webflow, and I worked there for a while, and I think there is some really good core ideas in there. But these core ideas, without being open source, are kind of they feel kind of dead to me, in a sense, like Webflow is going to stay too small because it is closed sourced. And I think making it open source is actually going to give it a chance to see the world, you know?
Yep. And I particularly like that we had the flexibility to integrate anything that we possibly like with the Webstudio. The flexibility is amazing. So that's you guys did an amazing job with that tool, and I'm gonna be showing it in this webinar how you can integrate it with Tape. So what we're gonna do now, let's go with the Tape team a little bit to see what updates do you guys have for us. We got so what do you got for us for this? So Tim, go ahead.
Yeah, I can take over today. Because Leo was not able to make it for this particular webinar. So that's why today I will be giving you a quick update. I only have a small thing to show, which
Let me stop.
Does have an impact. Yeah.
Yep.
I will just, I mean, you know, we've been keeping our heads down, really focused on working on the new record. And what we did over the past 3 weeks mostly was leveraging the foundation that we have built for the dashboards and improving it here and there with little features that we will need for the new record. And that is also something that we have released. So let me quickly share my screen. Can you see my screen now?
Yeah, we got it.
So as I guess all of you by now, you know that this is also the foundation that we are using for the new record. And the record is, of course, fundamentally different in terms of requirements than the dashboard's functionality. And what we came up with over the past days, actually, what we released over the past days is that we have different spacing options between the elements inside the document. So this is a dashboard now that you already know. And as you all aware of, we have these column layout systems where you can have multiple columns. Actually, yeah, the more you want, the more you get. And what you can do now is you can actually change the spacing here. So we introduced this tooltip that says Alt-click to adjust. So you can do Alt-click now, and this is how you make this menu here pop up, and then you can select the spacing. And what it does is it increases the space between the columns. It's just a minor thing, but so far you weren't able to achieve the same thing without that. So now you will have basically like a padding between the columns. And of course, this also works for multiple columns. Here I already configured that. This is one of the features that we will need because with the new record, we of course want to provide users with the capability of arranging your fields in multiple columns. And that's why you will, of course, benefit from these settings that you have here. And the second one is when you select more than one block. So for example, I select these 3 blocks here, you can actually change. There's a new menu here. It's the spacing menu. We just released that today, actually. So you can play around with it already. It should be available to everyone. And it's brand new. And you can select the spacing that will apply to these blocks here. So I can, when I select small, it's tied together. I can select extra large. And the cool thing is that you can actually set this between each block. So if I want to have a large spacing between those two, but between these, I want to have a smaller one, I can change it individually. So this makes it very, very customizable. And this is the foundation. If you think about a record layout, of course, you need space between the input fields. And this is the base foundation that we built to provide the new record with the with the proper spacing to get started. And do you have any questions?
No, it looks fantastic.
It's just a small thing, but I guess because I'm very technical, I'm a developer myself. But actually, I showed it to Stefan the other day, and he has been building a lot of dashboards over the past days and weeks, and has been experimenting a lot also with regards to the new record and the requirements that we have for the base technology. And he said that in certain scenarios, this is very, very crucial and valuable to have these settings. You will probably know. You can just play around with it.
Nice. One question that I have, can you share just the dashboard with clients? For example, I want to send my client just a dashboard. Can I do that?
Yeah, you can. You actually already have these share capabilities that I think that's been around for a while. So you can have a share link for the entire workspace.
Oh,
and
got
share
it.
that.
Got
Yeah.
it. Perfect. That's fun. The dashboards are so cool. You can do so much stuff with that. So let me just continue on with the next part of the webinar. I'm going to be going through talking a little bit more about how to integrate the tape API with Webstudio. So let me just share my screen real quick here. Let me just go. Maybe this one. Okay. Okay. So can you guys see everything? Okay, good. So let me just start by going to here. So one of the things that you have in tape, you know that you have the dashboards like Team Show. We got like the automations, the records, everything there inside like the tape workspaces. But there's also something called the Tape Developer API, which basically you can take anything that you have on tape, you can connect it to multiple platforms, however many platforms you need. So for this, in this webinar, I'm going to be showing how to connect Webstudio with the tape API. And I also created a template here that you can go to the tape templates. You can download these templates on that templates.tapeapp.com is available here. I'm going to be covering how to use this template and a couple of more advanced stuff just for you guys here. And there's also another template that you will find in the Webstudio, because in Webstudio you can also download templates, and in here you will have available. So what I'm going to be running and how to use each one of them. So let me go to the tape to the tape workspace, and when you get the template, you will see the mini dashboard with all the information on how to get an account with Webstudio and a couple of more stuff. So let me go to this one, which would be the developer one. So one of the things that you can do in Webstudio, you can create your own website per se, but what I'm going to be showing you is how to integrate like the tiny MC editor using the tape. So let me go to show you what you can do with this. So this is the record, and in tape, you know that you have the multi-line text, but if you want to extend it to have like a more an HTML editor, you can actually implement it by using Webstudio webhook forms, and this is how it works. So let me go here, and I got it here. So this is the record in Webstudio. I'm sorry, in tape. So when you click the Open Tiny MC Editor, it's going to open a page on Webstudio that has the information of the Tiny MCE editor that you can edit and use accordingly. So the reason that I created this is I'm using this for email newsletter. For email newsletter campaign, I create the HTML here and then send the emails using this. Makes it very flexible. So how exactly does this look in tape? So let's go to Webstudio, and if we go here to the Tiny MCE, we got the editor. So in here, what's going to happen is this is the Webstudio editor. In Webstudio, you got like the navigator on here, you got the styles on this side and the settings, and in the middle, you got the canvas that you're going to be using to create your website. So for this specific case, I'm adding a content from one of the tape records. So in this case, let me just pull the record. So you can see here, it pull it. So the question is, how am I pulling this data from tape? So this one is pulling, if I go back to tape, is pulling data from a hidden field that is inside of tape. If I go to the customize fields, it's getting the data from a raw HTML that is hidden. So how am I doing that in Webstudio? Is by using the retrieve filter record from a map. This is the API call that we're using here. So let me go back to Webstudio, and if we go over here to the settings, you will see here that inside the body, I have something that is called the data variables. So the data variables is the way that I'm taking the tape API and putting it here. So if I open this one, you will see that there are a couple of resources. I'm using the retrieve filter records. So what I'm pulling is the record ID, the app ID, and the record ID. So just to give you a brief overview, if we go to the tape API records, this is how you integrate it with your app, in the specific case for Webstudio. So what I'm doing here is I'm pulling the data from the tape record and putting it here. And this is how it works. I just call if I click here, the URL will be this one. It's api.tape, version 1, app, and the app ID. What the app ID is, I'm telling tape, okay, I want you to search in the app ID. If I go to the record, I want you to search for here, this app ID, 53883. What that means is that I'm searching for this app, Tiny MCE. And okay, so once I tell that to the tape, perfect. I'm searching what app. What do I want to filter? So I go here to the body and I want to filter by the record ID field. So what this is I'm telling the app, okay, you're going to filter from all the things that I'm sending from the API. I want you to search for this specific record ID. And in Webstudio, we got something that is called a static page and a dynamic page. So in Webstudio, the static page is basically a page that is not changing per se. It's just one source of data. The dynamic page is a page that changes according to the thing that you provide from the API. So just to give you an example, in here, I got so this page here, if I copy, I'm going to open it. So this one is one of the pages. Perfect. So, but I also have another one. If I go back to tape, I got another record, and let's open this one, the second record. And I'm going to open the Tiny editor. And as you can see here, I got two different pages. So what the Webstudio is doing in the dynamic page is pulling all the records according to the value of the record ID for the specific case. And then I can edit this, save it, and it will update the content on tape, which is fantastic. And as you can see, I have two different pages. So one of the things here, if I go back to Webstudio, so you may ask, so what kind of yep, it looks like you're storing the raw HTML text field, which is awesome. Yep, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm putting it in a hidden HTML field. So just to go on, what is exactly Webstudio showing me? So if I go here to the tape resource and I go to inspect, so what Webstudio is pulling all the data from the tape API according to the parameters that I gave them in the filters. And the cool thing is that in Webstudio, I can use all the data that I have in my records. I can use it however I like in the records. So for example, let's say that I want to change the title here. So this is a simple heading, an H1 heading. So when I want to go here, and over here, you have something that is called the bindings. So when you click the bindings, I have the option to change it however I like based on the data that is coming from the tape API. So let me show you. If I select, for example, the tape resource, gonna be me like the data, and then I want to search the records, record 0, which is only pulling one record. And in here, let me put the fields. And then in here, you will see that it has 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. What this means is if I go back to tape, those are, if we go to the developer, are going to be this one. 0 is the title, 1 is raw HTML, editor is 2, and so on. So I'm going to be pulling the landing page URL. So let me go back to Webstudio, and I'm going to pull, I think it's 3. And as you can see here, the external ID is landing page URL. And I can go to select the values of that one, value 0. And in here, I'm going to select the value. And when I do that and I click out, it will pull out the information from the tape record based on the one that I selected. And I can change to however I like here. This is pretty cool. The flexibility of doing that is really cool. So let me just go back to how it was in the title. So right now, like I mentioned before, I created this Tiny MCE integration because I needed to do like some HTML emails for a email marketing workspace that I created on tape. So I created that to make it easier, and also for certain blog posts. But you don't necessarily need to do something this complex. You can also use the multi-line text, and it works the same way. So in the multi-line, let's say that you want to send something to your client, a specific landing page with your URL. So you can do that. You can create a landing page in Webstudio and send them information based on what you put in the multi-line text. So just to give you an example, let's say that I want to change here in the multi-line, and I say hello world, and I can change it here. Let's put it in bold. So let's put it in H2. And then when I click out and I go back to the Webstudio page and I refresh that page, it will automatically pull the data from that I created on tape. So depending on the good thing about Webstudio is you have the flexibility to do whatever you like for your specific clients or for your specific use case. And the way to integrate it with the tape API is actually pretty straightforward. So if I, yes, so like I see your, yes, go ahead.
Is this the published website?
What do you mean, like the published?
Like you are right now on a published website, because we cannot see your URL bar. I don't know where we are right now.
Oh, you cannot see the URL bar?
No, we can't. That's why it's so hard to understand where you are.
Oh, sorry.
Between the tabs.
Sorry about that. That's weird. Let me do something. Thank you for letting me know, because let's see. Let me share the entire screen. So now, can you see it?
Now, yes.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, sorry about that. So good point. Thank you for letting me know. So basically,
great. So what I just wanted to make sure is that you're showing that it's actually live. You published it in the CMS and it's live on the published website. You didn't need to republish anything. It's live because it's essentially not a static website builder. It's a big difference to any other approaches which require you to republish, because everything is static. It has to be pre-built with data in order to be seen by the user. Here we fetch directly from the workers, from the servers.
Exactly. So just to clarify what Oleg says, you said that I changed hello world here. Let me go back to the tape and let's add something else, something over here. So you see what something, and then when I click out and I refresh this page here, it's going to add it automatically from the tape. So which is really cool. So you can have it's automatically updates based on the value that I provide from the API. So if I go back to the Webstudio, and I open over here the multi-line text field, this is a very simple landing page that I created. And so in here, it's the same concept, the same API call, which is retrieve filtered records from an app, which is pretty cool, very simple. This is as basic as you can get. You can get as advanced as you possibly can with integration from the API, which is absolutely fantastic. So one thing that I want to show is that you can show any field from a tape record on any of the Webstudio pages. So one of the things, let me go to, so let's say that you want to show a roadmap of your app. So let me show you how that works. Let's say that you're in tape, you created a roadmap. So right now, this is the roadmap for the tape app, some of the things that the tape team is working. And let's say you want to show this to your audience or in your website. So what I'm going to go to Webstudio and I'm going to create a roadmap here. So this is the page. So let me just open it full screen. As you can see here that this is a roadmap, and we got the release and in development. So let's say that the tape team is working on the mobile app. They're working on the mobile app, and they say they release it tomorrow. Let's assume that. They're going to release the mobile app tomorrow. So they're going to go here, and they're going to drag this one from in development. They're going to put it over here in release. And when I refresh the website over here, let me go over here. And when I refresh the website and open at the live website, you can see that the improved mobile app changed from in development to up here in release. So this is one way. Of course, the design that I made here is very simple, but the good thing is that if in Webstudio, if I go back here, I have the full flexibility of the CSS to change this however I like. So in this specific case, just hire a good graphic designer that will give you a Figma document to change it here, because you can actually copy paste the Figma CSS into the design here, which that was fantastic that you guys did that. It was fantastic.
Still a lot of work. Actually, the challenge is actually not so much copy pasting. Like copy pasting is fine for testing things, but the challenge is if you build something in Figma and you want to keep both versions all the time in sync. Oh, that's really challenging. This is something we we know how to solve. We haven't done it yet. So effectively, Webstudio design system should be built on variables, and variables right now can be just copy pasted out of Figma into Webstudio. But in a better, more automated world, you would just click a sync button, and all the variables out of Figma would land in Webstudio. But anyways, this is
but still, it's better than WordPress, honestly. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, WordPress doesn't have visual editor that understands CSS. What we did there to make this happen is actually we transform CSS into data that Webstudio completely understands. So whenever you paste something or you change it in the style panel, it's the same thing. It doesn't matter if you change it in the style panel or you paste it in. We always translate it into data. When you're in WordPress, it's not like that. In WordPress, CSS is like whatever that is inside of the CSS file. It doesn't really understand the entirety of CSS.
Exactly. So you have that flexibility here, and the way to design on this website on Webstudio is so much easier than in WordPress. Just to continue on with so I want to show you how I pull out the data, because this is a static page. So I'm pulling two things here: the released and in the development. So you see here that over here I have something that is called a collection. So a collection in Webstudio is basically like I call it like a loop. So I'm pulling data from the tape API, and in the specific case, let's say that I have in development I had 3 records. So it's pulling 3 records from the API in that specific case, and it's showing them here, just as an example. And then for this one, I'm using the same API call, which will be the retrieve filter records. But you can also use another tape API call. If I open this one, the in development, I can also use the filter by view. The filter by view is a lot easier because instead of being a method post, it's a method get. So I'm basically getting the data from a view and pulling it here. Just to give you an example, let's say, so you see here that I got the record view 103782. So let's say that I want to change it to something else. So if I go to tape and I say, let me put the ones that are on roadmap, and I just see up here, it says view equals 103. So I'm going to copy that one. Going to go back to Webstudio, and in the URL, I'm just going to change this one. And then I'm going to refresh it, and it's basically going to be pulling the data from that view. So I actually use this one for a lot of stuff because it's a lot easier to organize the views on tape and then pull the data here instead of filtering with the other API call. But that's one of the options that you have available, which is very powerful. Okay, so any questions so far? Because this is very technical that I'm covering here. But any questions so far before going to the next one, which is fantastic, something that Jason. So can you interact with this? What do you mean by that? What do you mean by interacting with? Like moving them? Oh, like a board view in a tab. Well, in here, you can basically design it however you like. And it's basically pulling the data from tape and put it in the web page. It's actually just to view the data. Okay,
but
so go ahead.
Yeah, no, not live as a user, which I think is what RJ means.
Oh, changing the priority from low to high by moving it. Yeah, but it depends on the use case, but you can basically have an open canvas here that you can move it accordingly. Oh, I see. You mean like moving it like an interactive dashboard like this. That's what you mean? I know. I don't think in Webstudio you can do that, right? Or like I cannot create it like a drag and drop like I'm having here that I'm moving it from side to side.
No. This is something you can build in Webstudio if you add interactive widget that will handle the UX of dragging things around. Webstudio in itself is completely unopinionated about how this front end works. Like Webstudio is a front end builder, so if you want this kind of functionality, you have to build it.
Oh, I see. That's what the open source is. Yeah. But one thing that you mentioned, you can actually pull data from tape into Webstudio and show the data that you have on tape on Webstudio. That's basically how it works. But one of the things that actually pretty amazing, and this is something that Jason told me the other day, is using web forms. So let me go over the web forms, because Webstudio allows you to create webhook forms. So let me go to the forms, and this is just a very simple web form that you have the name, the email, phone, a text area, radio select, a multi-select, and a dynamic take data that I added here. So what is the dynamic take data? So this is a web form. I submit it and receive it via the webhook automation on tape. So I receive the data. But what if I wanted to create a webhook form that is dynamic and change based on the data that I have on tape? You can actually do that here. So let me go back to here. So let's say that I have this dynamic data tape. So I got Gimli, Gandalf, and Aragon. So there's someone missing from that list. So let's add them here. If I go back to tape, I'm gonna add these contacts here. So this contact is this app from tape, which is called contact, is connected to the webhook form. So let's say that I wanna add the person missing. I'm gonna go to new contact and let's add Legolas, which is the one missing. I'm gonna click save. And when I click save on tape and I go back to the web form, let me just refresh that web form. See down here, the dynamic take data. When I refresh, you will be able to see that Legolas was added into the web form. So the good thing about this is that you can create a dynamic web form and receive the data based on what you have on your tape records. The possibilities to do things with this one is absolutely amazing, and based on the API that you have. And it's very simple to put it here. So if I go over here in the collection, all I have here is the filter view. I'm filtering a view from tape and showing it in the web form, which is pretty cool. So let's submit the form to show you how it works. So let's go over here and I'm gonna submit the form. Let's put Luis, email, and then the phone number, just quickly. The text area, something, and I'm gonna select radio 2. I'm gonna select 2 of them, and let's say Gandalf. And when I submit it, it's gonna send me like a thank you message. And then when I go back to tape and I go to the web form, you see, let me refresh. And when I go back to the web form, you will see that that record was created from the web form that I created. It's very cool. So you can use Webstudio to host all your forms, dynamic forms in this case. And you can see the dynamic thing change to Gandalf instead of 1. And it's very simple on how to put it. Yes, Mr. Oleg.
So on this, yes, forms are already working. You can submit forms. What's currently missing, what we have been working on and will be probably released very soon, is that you can use on the form the same kind of resource that you used to fetch the data. So you can specify, you can not only submit to a webhook, you will be able to submit to any API, submit any headers, any parameters, any query, etc. Same thing as you do with normal resource. So this part is going to be released probably within the next month somewhere. Nice. And then the other thing that will be missing right now, if you actually wanted to build, let's say you wanted to build tape UI with Webstudio, like build tape, the entire tape frontend with Webstudio, you would need a lot of interactions type of things, where you don't necessarily have a form, but you want to have a button that does something, right? And these are actions that will be also implemented. It's also going to be possible, but not yet. Right now, if you want to do something like this, you can do it, but you would write custom JavaScript.
Oh, nice. Still, it's very flexible though. Very flexible.
Custom JavaScript is always more flexible because you can do really complex things. But generally, like interactions that can do most things will be possible without writing code as well.
Nice. So that's nice. So I see in the chat that you have RJ has a question that you can, could we create some checklist points and submit this to be created in tape? Yes, you can. Well, you will need to use a different API call. So if you go to the API thing, you will need to or go here and either create a record or create just set a checklist. So it's somewhere in here you can create the checklist. You just need to let the use the correct API call to do that. Yeah, and having the ability to use a raw JSON to indicate. So yes, you can do that. It's just like figuring out what the case use you have and then putting it in Word. So for example, right now I'm using Webstudio to create a clock in and clock out app for certain employees that want to use it, so I can monitor their time on tape, but they do it on Webstudio with a webhook form. Very simple, clock in and clock out. And so it's very cool. So let me just, so I was going on the way you receive the webhook forms. When you get the form, you get the payload with all the information here, and you can put it in the creator record. That's how it basically works. So one of the last things that I want to cover, and this is like, because I use Tape as my content management system with Webstudio as the front end for the blog that I have. And for my specific case, I'm integrating something that is called NeuronWriter. NeuronWriter is a software that you use for SEO purposes. So I integrated in Tape. So I'm just gonna briefly show it how it works, just to see the integration. So let's say that you want to have a blog in your Tape account. So this is the blog. So when I click here, this is the blog post that I have. And if I go way down here, I can actually see that blog post. Let me open it. And you can see that I have the blog post, and I can publish it here according to the needs that I have. And I use this a lot. In one of my blogs, I publish twice a week using this method. And the good thing is that the Webstudio is so fast that the ranking on the website is astronomical on my website, thanks to how fast Webstudio is and the integrations that you create. So it's very powerful. And in the specific case, it's just something that I added on the template. If you have something that a blog that you want to do with SEO in mind, this is something that you can use. But just wanted to cover that very briefly on how it works. So let me continue.
You want to hear something cool about being fast? It's not just fast for very simple static content. It's actually a full-blown React application that we managed to make really fast. I mean, it's not necessarily our complete work. We based on frameworks that are actually doing the hard work, but in the end, what matters is you can build a simple static site, or like with static content that is hitting 100% on Lighthouse scores. You can build a dynamic website with whatever dynamic content, fetching data from multiple resources, and it's still hitting 90% plus scores. And then you can build an application that has any kind of dynamic data, interactions and whatnot. It's still hitting, very high 80 plus and 90 plus scores. And so my goal is kind of like to get out of this mindset. You either build a static website and then it's fast, or you build an application and then it's guaranteed slow, and React is slow and whatnot. This is React. This is a full-blown web application, and it's as fast as a static website. And I think this is an achievement.
Yep, and I can actually see my analytics here. I can see like the fastest. Some of the pages are very fast, and like RJ said, in comparison to WordPress, it's no competition. WordPress was slow for me and my clients. So when I changed to this, there was
WordPress very fast, and you can make like many do this, and they show you an insanely fast website. But when you look at it, they are basically caching the entire front end. They turn it into a static website. So basically, there is nothing happening behind the curtains. When you go to this website, it's all cached. So whenever something has to change, a lot of things gonna happen. It's not a dynamic website when it's this fast with WordPress, because it's impossible.
Yep. And one thing you're gonna keep in mind working with WordPress, for example, if you wanna make that WordPress site fast, you gotta install a plugin. So you have like 10 plugins to make the website fast. And I remember when I work on my client sites with the plugins, there's so many plugins to keep in track and to keep an update on the security with Webstudio, and in the integration with Tape, it's just 2 platforms. That's it. That's all you need. You don't need anything else, which is pretty cool. And as you can see, the API is integrated very well. So let's continue.
Caching is actually a problem that like humanity hasn't solved yet. Maybe AI will replace us all and like solve the caching problem. Caching is really hard, and the problem if you try to make something really fast by caching things go wrong. And that's what the entire ecosystem that tries to solve the problem with static site generations and whatnot is kind of hitting. Like, yes, it's going to be fast when you cache everything, but then you cannot update it. And if you update something that is on every page and you have 20,000 pages, yeah, you are done. Yeah, it's going to take an hour to update your website.
That is completely true. So what I'm gonna do now, let's continue on. We got a few more minutes. So let me share, I'm gonna put in the chat a link to both the templates that I created for the tape template and the Webstudio template. So what I'm gonna do now, we're gonna go to the questions and answers section. So if you have any questions for me or for Mr. Oleg on what you can integrate. So Jason, we're gonna start with you.
Can I just show something that I think is really
Oh, yeah,
cool?
please go ahead.
I'll try,
Yeah, sure.
I'll try and share it.
me
I'm on
stop.
holiday at the moment, so I'm a bit, everything's a bit all over the place, but we'll give it a go. Might go a bit funny for a second. So if I just come here, I think it is. So this site here I started building while I was on holiday, like yesterday morning. Now, you can see all this data has been pulled from tape. And if we look at this one here, this video is wrong for this. So if I just try and jump into tape here, and I take this out, this link, I'll come back over here and refresh this page. And if it all goes right, which it won't, but basically what you've got here is pictures or videos. And in here, you can put in, it's the wrong place, but basically you can put in a bit of code in here that basically says if there's a video, show the video, and if there's a picture, show the picture, which I think is really clever, and that can be pulled from tape. What I've done in tape is I've got a little bit of an automation on the background that just sets a video reference depending on what's in this video field, and then it will update accordingly. So that I just think is just a really clever little thing that you can do. Yeah,
that's pretty cool. Yeah, because you can use, like Alex said, you can use JavaScript operations and expressions in the.
So I think what he's mentioned was using JavaScript expressions to conditionally show or hide something, right?
Yeah,
so basically you have a value that comes from the database, from the API call, and then you see if the value is whatever, true, false, 1, 0, then show it. If it's not, then hide it, and this is how you can do the conditional logic.
Yeah, exactly.
That is pretty cool. So anybody else, any questions you have about this? Any thing that you want to cover? Okay, Tim, go ahead.
Oh, like you mentioned caching. I was just wondering, because Louis previously showed the option to pull the data from the tape API. So are you actually doing any intermediate caching there, or are you actually hitting the API when the user visits the website?
Completely raw. That's data coming. I mean, there is some caching going on from Cloudflare itself. When you're doing a fetch request on the worker, Cloudflare has some edge caching, but this caching is not guaranteed. It's kind of like depending on where you come from, on what edge, if they have the data that is cached, if the cache was populated, if it hasn't been purged, etc. So there is caching, but it really depends. It's not guaranteed. Usually, when the website is like new and not visited, it's almost never a cache. If the website is really hot and it's like being visited a lot from that region, then it's probably going to be cached. we are actually thinking to add manual control over caching, so that if you really know you don't need to update this data in real time, and you kind of fine with changing something, and then it appears on the website in like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, in an hour, in a day, or whatever. If you don't care and you want it to be even faster, then you could probably override the cache and set a custom value. Right now, it should be respecting the caching headers from the API. Generally, usually it's so fast when I don't know where you're hosting this API. Is it distributed globally?
Yes, it is. But of course, because tape is a generic system, an API request sometimes takes a few 100 milliseconds. That's why I was asking. So the website would. Are you working with skeletons, or is there any way that you're handling asynchronous operations that take a moment?
It's actually that fast. It's just actually that fast. Well, the thing is, when you go to Cloudflare and it boots a worker in your region, in the region where you came from. If, for example, you are right now in Germany and you are visiting the worker from Germany, the worker is going to be somewhere, maybe in Munich or somewhere in Europe. So you have a very fast path to the worker. Then the next question is, where is your API server? If your API server is also in Germany, the worker is going to hit from Germany the API server in Germany. So for you, it's going to be insanely fast. By accident, it could be even the same data center. Maybe they are both in Munich right now, and that's why it's fast. It could be different for a user who comes, let's say, from the US. So the worker, they are starting there, it's in the US. And if your API server is not distributed, it will be hitting the API server from the US worker from Germany. So this call is going to be slower, but then again, it's going to be slower by maybe like 100, maybe 150 milliseconds, who knows? It's not going to be like, a problem to the level where you can see a slow website. A slow website is not usually coming from slow API responses. I mean, it can get slow if your API response is like 300 milliseconds plus, then it can get noticeable. But usually everything below, let's say 200, you don't even notice it, because like everything else, when frontend is rendering, there is so much stuff that we have optimized to make this actually work, that the API performance is actually the least important thing in this entire system in terms of performance, unless it hits certain threshold where it's just noticeable. And then the other thing is, which we will be working on, is streaming. So the thing is, if your website is really long, like, single page applications that you have 5 kilometers to scroll down, what happens is, if you have a lot of resources that you need to fetch for all of this to get rendered, you will have to wait a long time, especially if there is many API requests and some of them are slow, and like you have to wait for all of them. So what we're going to do is we will start streaming your website as data gets ready and the HTML can be served to the browser. And this is basically a server-side rendering from React. It's not us being so smart, it's them. So essentially, the way it's going to be solved for really huge amount of data and really large websites is just start streaming as the data arrives. And that's it.
Excellent. So I see here in the chat that John, you have a question. Will this add a load on tape when implemented at scale? What do you mean by that, John?
Yeah, no, I mean, pretty much he already touched on that. I was just wondering if we're pulling from tape every time somebody's accessing that at scale, if a website isn't getting hundred thousands, as far as traffic goes, is that going to bog down or create some sort of a negative effect for the tape ecosystem?
You mean on the side of Webstudio?
Yeah, so like Webstudio, if I understand this correctly, Webstudio, every time I load this page, it's doing a pull from the tape API, correct?
Yeah. So the effect is actually a positive one. The more people visit the same worker in the same region, the more hot the worker becomes, and the more likelihood that the cache is still preserved, because the cache is very short-term lived. I mean, it's not going to live for infinite amounts of time. It's probably like minutes or maybe like 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, not huge. So the more you actually use it, the faster it gets, because like the cache gets hot, the worker doesn't get destroyed, it gets too bright. Yeah, it's actually only getting faster.
Very cool.
More users. And the other question was, can we have some cool green shock GZAP animations? In fact, we have been investigating and thinking hard how to make the animations work. And we have been looking into GZAP and other libraries. And what we find out is that the web platform has moved on. There is Web Animations API, which is native to web platform, which works in most browsers, and in those where it doesn't work yet, there is a polyfill made by Google. And what's going to happen is you will have animation engine probably launched in March. It's going to be from from entry barrier, from complexity of using it, closer to how Framer works. So it's like it's not a rocket science. And the performance is actually way better than what Webflow or Framer has, because we use the native API, which does basically offloads all the work from the main JavaScript thread, which allows you to kind of have whatever is going on the website, not block the animations. If you saw the choppy animations, it's usually happening because something is going on in the environment, in the JavaScript environment, and something is blocking it. So you are losing frames, frames and dropping. So you see the choppy animations. With native animations, this is actually not happening, or at least it's very, very hard to achieve. And that's what's going to happen. We're getting there, and we have already working prototype, like basically in process. And yeah, we hope to release it in March.
Nice. Nice. Okay, guys, so we have a few more minutes. Anybody else has any questions for Mr. Oleg or for the tape team? Okay, excellent. So what we're gonna do, I wanted to start concluding the call. So Oleg, I wanna congratulate you and your team for creating the Webstudio, because it's fantastic. Honestly, as you guys saw in the demonstration, you can integrate it however you like. It's just the question is, what do you need to put on your website? And you have.
You surprised me actually with tape as well. Yeah, you know, for a few moments I thought I'm looking at Notion.
It's actually very similar, right? Yeah.
I didn't know you try to kind of keep the UX from Notion and then build a better system. That reminds me something.
Yeah, but in tape you can build anything. The stuff that we do here, if you go to the forum that we have in the community forum from tape, we build a lot of stuff here, and Jason is one of them. He builds a lot of crazy stuff and the community here. But when you integrate it with Webstudio, you have the possibilities are nearly endless.
I like this a lot. But a lot of people have actually asked for integration with Notion, and we looked into it, and like the API is just a mess. Like in order to load something from Notion, you have to do a lot of calls, and you have to wrangle all this data, put it together yourself. And essentially, what it came down to is you have to build your own API server in order to talk to Notion. And we said, yeah, someday maybe, but not today. Like somebody else has to build it. We cannot build everything, and that's how we only support like data loading from the Notion table and nothing else. And all this cool stuff that is happening on Notion Canvas, you just not really cannot use it as a content management platform. And with tape you can, which makes me actually very happy. We should look more into it and maybe make some cool demos. I wanna know what is some kind of really cool stuff that is possible, not just basic stuff.
Well, at least with tape, you can create anything.
Yeah,
you can possibly. It's literally anything. You can connect different APIs. I think Jason connects Google Maps. He connects. There's so much stuff that we can do because it's so flexible. Tape is so flexible. Yeah.
We need demos that make something that is really, really hard to make otherwise.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So and you have your blog, your content management system on tape, and then take it from there. Yeah. And it's very stable. Yeah, tape is very stable. Yeah. Yep. Okay, perfect. So we got just a few more minutes. If anybody else doesn't have any questions, or we're gonna wrap this up. Oleg, I want to thank you for taking the time for this call. And just before we leave, what's on the roadmap for? You mentioned a few things, but what's on the roadmap for Webstudio for this year? Anything you want to share additionally?
Well, mainly animations and AI stuff that we can't really disclose yet. AI stuff is coming as well. We have so many ideas there that I'm not even sure what is gonna be launched when. It's not even super clear. But yeah, we also want to work on better API UX, because right now it's kind of a little bit raw. You have to understand every bit of the API. What I want is to have a better way to see the data, select the data, graphical playground. I don't know if you have a GraphQL API as well, or is it REST?
Tim, do we have that, the GraphQL?
Yeah, actually, this is a topic I would not like to discuss today. Yeah, we do have a GraphQL API, but it's internal. So it's like the worst combination. So actually, that is one of the decisions from the past. So we do have a GraphQL API for internal application that we use, but our developer API is REST style, and I'd say it's very conservative in its design, but also very powerful and very flexible. Yeah.
Well, the challenges that we see with REST APIs is that there is no universal way of knowing how it works. With GraphQL, it's kind of more universal, and there is graphical, which allows anyone, like people without skills who don't understand the API, they can use graphical without writing any code. Basically, you can click together whatever you need out of the data, and it's going to give you the query. You can copy it and be done. So that's like we have currently GraphQL editor, but that's basically you have to write the query. It's the code. So what we want to also add a graphical interface, so that like if you have a chance to use a GraphQL API, you don't need to understand content. Like essentially, we need to make it as often as possible. If there is a chance that we don't need to write code, we shouldn't write code. And another thing is AI is hopefully going to get us to the point where we can trust it to write those queries, those parameters for us. Like you basically say, I want this data, and this data has these fields, and it just writes for you the query. And I don't have to deal with the API to learn the documentation, etc. It can learn it for me and just use it. That's my ideal world. So integrations with APIs need to be easier. AI can solve a lot of automation for things that you don't actually want when you're designing the website, like naming things, finding things, I don't know, fixing CSS when you don't know how to, and a lot of other things. And yeah, animations engine. I mean, I'm looking forward to the point where we can talk to animation engine through AI and basically tell it, look, I want a parallax effect, and these images need to be doing XYZ. And behind the scenes, it's actually using the animation engine, and the exact same thing happens that you can do visually as well. So
nice. Yeah, AI is going to change the world. Well, it's changed it already. So okay, so guys, we are at 2 p.m. my time. So this is the conclusion of the call. I would like to thank everybody for your time. Oleg, once again, thank you for your time, and for Tim and Stefan for allowing us to host this webinar. We're going to be doing this webinar every month on the last Thursday of the month. If you have any ideas on what you want to cover, if you want to invite another guest, let us know. And also check out Webstudio with I put Jason in this post for Webstudio, so it's fantastic. So if you have clients that want to create a website, there are a lot of stuff in there. So just go check it out. And if you have any question, like always, reach to us in the forum. Jason and me will be able to help you. And in the case of Webstudio, you can go to the Discord forum, which is fantastic. You can get a lot of help there. Oleg have built an amazing community there, so you can get any help. So that will be it for this webinar. I would like to thank you guys, and we'll see each other next month, okay?
Thanks, everybody.
Take care, okay? Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.